Thanks to our Samsung School Board, we now welcome to the show Dave Telep, ESPN Senior National Recruiting Analyst. Thanks for coming on, Dave.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, Dave, Andrew Wiggins is the #1 recruit in the country, and he's scheduled to make his college decision tomorrow. We have heard stories that this kid is the best high school player since LeBron. What makes Wiggins so special?
Well, what makes Wiggins so special is this is the son of a track star from Florida State and a college All-American basketball player from Florida State, so he's a genetic freak. Athletically, he's really superior to a lot of the guys in this class. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, and improving jump shot. Really the best player to come out of Canada probably since Steve Nash, but the hype with the best player since LeBron would be to minimize the high school career of Greg Oden and Dwight Howard and a guy named Durant. So I think we got to watch the praise a little bit.
I agree with that. Now, everybody loves comparisons. So if you had to compare Wiggins' skill set to a current NBA player, who would you pick?
Yeah, you know, I've kind of used Tracy McGrady a little bit. You're talking about a 6'7", 6'8" athlete.
Sorry, Dave. I
yeah.
said a current NBA player.
You said a current NBA player?
Yes.
You mean you're not allowed to sit at the end of a bench in a playoff game
No.
and be part of a team anymore?
No, not at
A
all.
Washington fan.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. Continue.
I use McGrady a little bit. I think this was a guy who had a long, lean body coming out, was just kind of wired up to score, and the game looked kind of easy for him. I always thought that Wiggins had some of those similarities, although I think in the end of the day, Wiggins is going to be a better player and a better scorer than the artist formerly known as Tracy McGrady.
Now, Dave, we here at Unite like to talk about the Twitter. So we ask you, how much attention do guys like Wiggins get from fans on Twitter begging him to come play for their school, like myself? Please come to Maryland.
Well, it used to be message boards, but now the Twitter is even a little bit more public. I would imagine if you're Andrew Wiggins right now, it's got to be pretty gross, and some of the stuff is completely over the top. But I always think it's hilarious when a guy achieves a certain number of followers, makes his decision, and then bam, people just cut him the next day because of the choice he made. So it's going to be a harsh reality for Andrew tomorrow, one way or another.
All right, well, one thing we do know is that he's narrowed it down to 4 schools: Kansas, Florida State, Kentucky, and UNC. What is your quick hook and hang up on how he would fit in or not at each school?
Well, obviously at Florida State, the hook is his parents. Both of them were stellar athletes there. His best friend, Xavier Raton Mays, is signed to play there next year. That's kind of their hook. And don't forget, Leonard Hamilton, he's been around this business a long time. He's pretty good at his job. My hang-up there is just kind of the dismal season that they had last year and the cloud that it kind of cast over his decision. We'll see how that plays into it. With North Carolina, I think the hook is a ready-made team, a position ready for him. And I think North Carolina, you insert Andrew Wiggins into it, now you start talking about them with the national championship conversation. The hang-up there is who is really pushing the Tar Heels, aside from his grandmother who resides in Kinston, North Carolina. And then you have Kansas. I think, just look at the last couple years, guys. Thomas Robinson handed the baton to Ben McLemore, and Bill Self would like nothing more than to hand the baton from McLemore to Andrew Wiggins. The hang-up there is, if you're into the shoe wars, Reese, he's a Nike guy, Kansas is an Adidas school. Will it have any impact? And then you talk about Kentucky, which basically we're going to talk about Kentucky one way or another tomorrow. It's the most pro-centric program. Next year, Andrew Wiggins is going to be in the green room. So is John Calipari. The question is, are they going to sit together? The problem for Kentucky, I think, is you have just a collection of alpha males. And while Andrew Wiggins is certainly not worried about playing time, I do think it comes down to the old phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen. How many All-Americans can you cram into the Commonwealth in one given year? That's the big question in Kentucky.
So, Dave, what exactly needs to happen for Andrew to become a Maryland Terrapin?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. There's a two-part answer to this question. Obviously, we start with honorary degrees for his parents. They're Florida State alums. You got to give them something with a Maryland hook. And then the other thing is really, really easy. Maryland has to defect from the Big Ten and come back to the ACC. And if that happens, I don't think there's any issue.
Okay, all right.
Hope, an inkling of hope?
So you're saying there's a chance. Now, if he picks Kentucky, does anybody else have a chance, or is it over?
If he picks Kentucky, does anybody else have a chance for what?
Does anybody have a chance to win the championship next year if he goes to Kentucky and joins with all those alpha males you just named.
Genetic freaks.
Yeah, I still think that we should probably play the season. It would be a good idea for that. We at ESPN have a lot invested into the college basketball season. And then John Calipari has to put on his Albert Einstein cap and come up with some chemistry or some equations to keep everybody happy in this deal. Talk of them going undefeated is not going to happen. At the end of the day, we're still talking about freshmen. You got to get the chemistry worked out. But everybody in the country would love to have the issues John Calipari's having next year with or without Andrew Wiggins.
All right, Dave, by this time tomorrow, Andrew Wiggins will be
He will be following the footsteps of one of the greatest two-sport athletes to ever step foot on this campus. Just over 20 years ago, a young man from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, stop.
Graced Florida State's presence as just a transcendent two-sport athlete. Not since Danny Cannell has Florida State had a player of this magnitude. Andrew Wiggins, Danny Cannell, forever linked in the same sentence.
I'll have no part of this.
Florida State Seminoles.
Dave, you know why I like you? Just made our own Reese Waters walk off the set. Dave Telep, thanks so much. You made my night.
I'm glad you could drop the mic for me. Good night.